Welcome back, my fellow game developers. In this video we are actually going to be adding some gravity. So remember the good old days when we used to climb up these ramps and we would float around? Well, now that the fun is over, so when we step down we actually fall. And remember when we could have walked around in this plane and not worry if we fall down? Well, now when you walk down the plane you start falling down. But no worries, adding a bit of rule and constraints to the game actually sometimes makes it more fun. Just look at Dark Souls and how hard it is and how fun it actually is. Anyways, let's not waste any more time and let's get started. Okay, so currently when we hit play, our player moves up the ramp, and when he tries to go down, well, he actually stays in midair, and you can see his shadow right here. So what we want to do is we actually want to start setting our player down whenever we go up a ramp or try to do anything. So our goal is to add gravity to our player. Now let's go ahead and talk about what gravity is and how it works. So this is how gravity works. I'm not sure if you remember this formula from high school, but this is the difference of the distance, which is y, which is on the y-axis, and it's the g, or 1 over 2 times g, and g is the gravity times t to the power 2. And we have all of that. We have g as the power of gravity on Earth, which is 9.81, I believe. It's a long number, but 9.81, and then we have t, which is time dot delta time each and every single frame. So let's go ahead and implement this formula in our code. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a reference in here to keep track of the velocity of our player. So we're going to create a public vector3, and this is going to be the velocity. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to add this equation or apply this equation in the player move. So we go to the player move, we double click on it, and we can actually scroll down and see where that is. And after we apply the movement from our inputs, we then go and get the velocity. We access click.y, and this enables us to access the y component on the vector. And we're going to write in here plus equals, because the gravity increases as we fall down, physics dot gravity dot y, and this means that it's the actual physics from Unity's engine. So if we hover over it, it's the Unity engine dot physics. We access the gravity, and in here we can actually multiply this by mathf dot pow meaning that we can add power. So you can see here that it returns f raised to the power p. And what should f be? Well, it's going to be the time dot delta time raised to the power of 2. Very nice. We will not be bothering with adding the 0.5 right now. It's not that big of a deal. And next thing we're going to do is we're going to access my controller, and we're going to add this to the movement of our player. So now my controller.move is also affected by gravity. So let's go into Unity and let's test this gravity out. So let's go ahead and click on play. And I just noticed something before we continue. This gun material .1 is the material for the enemies, so let's name this the enemy materials. I hope nobody noticed that. I'll just do it without anybody seeing it. So we'll save that, we'll hit play, and now whenever we walk, we move up this ramp, and when we go down, let's click on player and see the velocity. So it's increasing, and now we fall down. Very nice. And if we move out from the edge, ooh, we start falling. But there is something really wrong here. If we click on play, we can see that because the velocity right here is a vector3, so we have the 0, well, we have the x, the y, and the z, but the y keeps increasing even when we stop moving. So even if we're standing still, the velocity keeps on increasing and increasing and increasing, and this makes the falling down very fast and not very natural. So we'll need to be able to reset our gravity whenever we actually start standing on the ground. And this is going to be your challenge. So your challenge is going to be to reset gravity if the character is grounded. So find the method that lets you check if your character controller is grounded. This will be a research-based challenge. You'll need to go out of your way and actually try to find a method that I have not taught you yet. So reset the gravity velocity of the character controller. What? This should be if the character controller is grounded, and I'll just give you a hint of what the velocity should be. It should be physics.gravity.y times time.delta time. Now, it doesn't need to be this exact value, but you can use this pretty well and it works. So pause the video and then go ahead and do some research, find out what you need. Everything you need is right in here. So I'll see you in just a bit. Okay, welcome back. So first thing we'll need to do is we'll need to check if our character controller is actually grounded. And if you've done your research, you would have found that my character controller has an option to check if he is grounded. And was the character controller touching the ground during the last move? So was he grounded? Yes or no? And if he is grounded, we are going to take this velocity and we'll access the y component on it, and we're going to make it physics.gravity.time. Oops, no, I meant .y times time.delta time. So now we have the velocity right here getting increased slowly but surely with the right physics equation for gravity. And then if my controller is actually grounded on the ground, we will stop all of this and then we will reset it. Now it doesn't have to be the physics gravity.y times time.delta time. I've just made it this way in order to make it much more realistic. You can only set it to, let's say, -1 or something like that. But let's go ahead and test this out and see if it works. So when we hit play, we should see that our gravity is at -0.1, which is fairly reasonable. And now when we fall down much more slowly and reasonably. And let's take a look at this y right here. So when we actually start falling down, this should be increasing. So it increases, but then it resets when we hit the ground. So again, it resets when we hit the ground, and the falling is actually much nicer. But if you can see right now, when we try to fall, it's more like gliding around, and we don't want that. We want a way to be able to actually control our gravity. So let's go ahead and create a variable that will enable us to modify our gravity. So we'll open up our player script. We'll move up in here, and let's just go ahead and separate this and call it the adding gravity. And under here, we are going to create a public float, and we'll call it the gravity modifier. So we'll have a gravity modifier in here that is public and we can control. And down here, we are going to go ahead and multiply our velocity by the gravity modifier. Let's save that. And now back in Unity, we have this gravity modifier right here. So now because it's 0, this will not work at all. I think he will not be even floating. Oops, well, he does float, but if we multiply it by 5, he should start falling down much faster. Yep, there we go. So now gravity works stronger on our player whenever he falls. We can even make this maybe 10 if you want. So this way the gravity will be much snappier. So now our player falls faster to the ground. So this will be a challenge for you, an extra challenge to go ahead and modify your gravity as much as you feel you want your game to have. So I'll just keep it at around 30, and I think that's a good gravity modifier. So I hope you enjoyed the video. In the next video, the obvious progression is, now that we have gravity, to start defying that gravity by jumping. So I'll see you in the next one.